This morning, Spirit Airlines has announced it is shutting down immediately amid money troubles it just could not fix. After filing for bankruptcy twice, Spirit struck a deal with lenders, I should say, to help stay afloat. But the war in Iran caused jet fuel prices to spike, and company leaders announced overnight they would begin winding down operations right away. The company was in talks with the federal government for a $500 million bailout, but bondholders reportedly didn't like the terms. The exact offer has not been made public, but some reports say the government wanted to take control of 90% of the company. Spirit has about 7,500 direct employees. Experts say losing any budget airline has negative impacts all across the board.
Without Spirit, there's just that much less price competition, and even the budget airlines are probably going to try to raise fares.
Spirit announced it has canceled all flights, and if you booked through Spirit, you simply should not show up to the airport. Now, before that announcement, Charlotte Douglas International told WBTV it was aware of reports surrounding Spirit Airlines. The airport tells us Spirit currently averages about 8 departing flights per day, representing about 1% of total operations there. Back in 2025, that number was at 2%. The airport also shared a statement with us, writing in part, "Our airline affairs and operations teams have a contingency plan in place in the event Spirit ceases operations, including preparing to assist affected passengers." Spirit utilizes city-owned common use equipment and maintains limited signage, which allows us to respond quickly if needed.